Memories of the Sword. When Shackles attunes to the radiant blade, he feels a sense of displacement, as if he's leaving the tomb and the very plane of Toril itself. He begins to see things through the eyes of the Eladrin warrior centuries ago, before she became the shadow creature in that golden sarcophagus. Her name is Rolkira, and she is a warden of the Rose Dust Druidic Circle. Members of this circle are sworn to protect what the elders call the balance of colors. Rolkira was not taught the finer details of the balance because she could not change shape or wield especially powerful magics like the elders, but her skill in martial combat earned her a place in the Rose Dust. For her part, she is dedicated to protecting all the exotic flora and fauna in the untamed lands she calls home, a planet reflection of the prime material known as the Feywild. Rolkira lives in harmony with nature for many decades until a city begins to encroach upon her circle's territory. Word on the wind says that a society of gnomes has found a font of arcane power deep within the heart of the Feywild that they call the Amberstone. They use its near-limitless powers to create wondrous natural machinery from stone and wood. These marvels function in tandem with the environment, blending with nature as well as the trees and animals that have been living in the Feywild since the dawn of time. Elders in the Rose Dust Council are concerned by this aberrant magic, but are unsure how to apply their laws of protecting the natural world to this peculiar engineering. The typical warning signs are not there. Birds will roost in the powered stone supports of animated guard towers. Elk do not flee from the spider-like stone and wood centurions that carry supplies from one gnomish outpost to the other. Wolves do not flee territories occupied by these strange natural machines as long as their hunts are not interrupted. So the wise and ageless druids decide to wait and watch from the shadows of the underbrush. As the years pass, the society of gnomes thrives. Their scattered provinces become a united civilization known as Amberveil. Feyfolk come from all over the grand wilderness to see the wonders built there, and bring their own talents to ply and goods to trade. But hidden amongst all this prosperity, a seed of corruption begins to sprout. A corruption so small and insidious that the druidic watchers can't see it from their distance. A council of gnomes known as the Thorn and Vine begins amassing power behind the scenes. They see their technological superiority as a right to expand and subjugate. As they spread propaganda and take more government seats, laws for visitors become more strict until anyone coming to the city is imprisoned and enslaved. By the time the humble wild communities around them wake to the threat, it's too late. Elves, Eladrin, Firbolg, all are captured and brought to Amberveil for labor in great techno-natural factories and quarries. The Rose Dust Council fights back, but the power of the Amberstone allows the gnomes to rapidly produce a legion of stone and wooden warriors. Each one destroyed by the Fey Wardens is replaced by dozens more. Eventually the elders are slain and all their druidic apprentices are enslaved like the others, forced to use their magical gifts to construct organic machinery. Rolkira pretends to pledge fealty to the Imperial Thorn and Vine and infiltrates their ranks by becoming one of their enforcers. From her position, she learns that the gnomes are very powerful but don't have the best understanding of statecraft. The evil gnomes hope to keep everyone subjugated by force and fear, using their mighty automaton army to capture and torture any dissidents they find. But even in the face of such oppression, a rebel element gradually develops in Amberveil, composed of the enslaved and those gnomes who never sided with the Thorn and Vine. As soon as Rolkira learns of the resistance, she begins feeding them information whenever she can. Initially, she's kept at arm's length because of her position. They view her as the right hand of evil, and her motivations are constantly questioned. But once trust is established and her resistance contacts are sure she isn't going to betray them, they allow her to meet the leader of one of the cells. They bring her to a secret chamber with a vat containing a twisted wooden body. It turns to look at her with green eyes and tells its story. Her name is Zypelidae. She would have been a dryad if she had developed normally, but the scientists of the Thorn and Vine used their terrible knowledge to alter her. As a sapling, she was fed chemicals and subjected to many transmutation spells that bonded her to a magical network until she became little more than a control node of organic circuitry. The gnomes cloned pieces of her and built them into clockwork handmaidens so that she could attend to their needs. Because of her nature as a servant, she was made to have more empathy than other dryad nodes that are meant to control the automatons of war. This caused her to develop morality as a result, and as a result she finds the situation in Amberveil abhorrent. Now she uses her heightened intelligence and talent for multitasking as a leader of a resistance cell. The bodies of the clockwork maidens under her control spy on the evil overseers and direct resistance movement in plain sight. After accomplishing several tasks and proving her mettle, Rokira is brought deeper into the fold so that she can help coordinate resistance activities while maintaining her cover. She draws gnomish forces to false hideouts and intentionally loses chase targets when she can, but her position is too valuable to sacrifice. The resistance slowly gathers strength in this brutal cat-and-mouse game with the thorn and vine until they're finally ready to make a move. Rokira is brought to meet with Zypelide once again, and she's introduced to another contact, an Eladrin man named Vicwern. Vicwern was a druidic apprentice from another circle that was forced into arcane slavery. Like Rokira, he had worked himself into the good graces of a few high-ranking gnomes and had a reputation as a good servant. In truth, the resistance told him to report the location of a sacrificial cell so that the gnomes would trust him. And once he was in their good graces, he learned that the gnomes were able to draw power from the Amberstone because of rings they forged from a special material known as timber brass. Over the past year, Vicwern had been gathering information on the timber brass. He saw gnomish engineers tending to these gnarled trees and feeding them a mixture of complicated chemicals to keep them growing. Once the trees matured, they were pollinated with another compound and grew these lumpy, glowing, metallic fruits before dying and poisoning the soil. These timber brass fruits could be plucked and taken directly to a forge, where they would be worked by dwarven slaves, and then enchanted by gnomish council members to draw from the endless wellspring of the Amberstone. The facilities are too closely guarded for a complete takeover of the Amberstone, so a plan is hatched to break in and recover one of the rings as it's being completed. Vicwern studies the ring creation process, and Rokira trains a team to defend him. When the opportunity arrives, the resistance pulls all its meager resources into the operation. Mass theft, vandalism, and other distractions send the automatons out in force, but allow the strike team to reach the ring chamber. Rokira is a capable warrior and fiercely protects them while he uses his stolen knowledge to lay the final enchantments upon the timber brass ring. The gnomish overseers recall thousands of techno-natural soldiers when they realize what's happening, aiming to overwhelm the betrayers with sheer numbers, but Vicwern finishes just in time. Once the ring is infused, Vicwern is able to use its power to assert control over a portion of the drones. The Imperial Thorn and Vine had gone so long relying on their machines that having even a single ring user in their midst is a devastating blow. The fighting continues for months as hidden resistance cells strike simultaneously at vulnerable targets like beaten wolves on the throat of the Empire. The evil gnomes are gradually driven from their citadels but refuse to leave their creations in the hands of their slaves. They bitterly destroy arcane laboratories and forges before withdrawing to some dark place away from Amberveil. Vicwern and Rokira grow close from fighting as a unit and saving each other's lives hundreds of times. They become the shining symbols of the resistance, and when the threat vanishes into thin air, they are crowned as the Rebel King and Rebel Queen. Neither is very infatuated with the title, but both see how the battered and downtrodden look to them for hope and guidance, so they accept the mantle. Everyone spends a lot of time rebuilding, but eventually some governmental structure is needed. One of the first organizations to emerge is composed of Eladrin druids and gnomes that were never allied with the Imperials. They form a new druidic circle called the Thistlecog, which combines the natural wisdom and survival skills that the druid apprentices could remember from their slain masters, and the stunning ingenuity and craftsmanship of the gnomes from a time before their people were known as slavers. They swear to protect the natural beauty as they had done before, and to never let the Amberstone be taken from their protection. However, not all of the rebels are interested in these new ideals. Some simply want to return to the ancestral lands that the evil gnomes had annexed and resume their former lives. So gradually the great empire of Amberveil is broken up and returns to a series of autonomous villages and homesteads. Many of the different races of elves, dwarves, and furbolgs shift back to their cultural origins, but many also remain part of the Thistlecog circle. The great restructuring lasts for a decade. Rokira and Vicwern fall further in love and have 2 daughters. They live an idyllic life until frantic messengers suddenly show up at the seat of former Amberveil with news for the rebel monarchs. Apparently the thorn and vine had went quietly into the darkness, only to make new allies with other evil fae. Now that the empire is broken up, the outlying villages are being ransacked and enslaved again. Thistlecog warriors mobilize and the war to maintain independence begins. The Circle isn't as adept at controlling the power of the Amberstone as the gnomes had been, so they can't replace their fallen automatons as quickly or as easily. They compensate with druidic training and magic, but the evil gnomes' allies are strong and wield perverse magic of their own. Shrieking hags and decapitated centaurs carrying their own heads bring terror down upon the unorganized villagers, forcing them to withdraw to former Amberveil. As the armies close in, the Thistlecog Circle realizes it cannot let the Amberstone fall into the hands of this new terrifying force. In council, Vicwern proposes a plan to seal the stone away, along with the entire city itself, inside his ring. With the evil gnomes on the march and little time to decide, everyone agrees. For weeks, gnomes of Thistlecog draw up arcane formulae, while the Eladrin druids call forth the power of nature and their warriors fight back the hordes. A special line of wood-forged automatons is imbued with extra magic to hide and protect the ring once the city is sealed, and a Sunblade is forged for the Queen to do battle. As the transdimensional ritual nears completion, the Thistlecog gnomes realize they can't make the formula work. The council refuses to allow the evil gnomes to recapture the Amberstone, and all the powerful Eladrin druids sacrifice a portion of their life essence to instead plane shift the city to the material plane. In a brilliant flash of light, the Amberstone and the surrounding city of Amberveil is forced into the ether and erupts in the middle of a foreign jungle. The transition is not smooth. Buildings crumble, everyone is disoriented, including the portion of the enemy army that was brought here along with them. But the monsters of the evil gnome army find themselves under the punishing rays of a midday Chultan sun instead of the eternal twilight of the Feywild, and are weakened as a result. The Thistlecog forces rally and fight, destroying the abominations they brought with them to this new land. Once again, the evil gnomes of the Thorn and Vine are defeated and slink back into the darkness, bitter and hateful. But the planar shift also had an unexpected effect. The power of the Amberstone dims. Amberveil spends many years adapting to this new and dangerous place with its weakened power source. They are free from the dark armies, but have to fend off the monstrous reptilian creatures of Chult to earn their survival. Gradually, the Feyfolk meet the humans that inhabit this land and Ubtao, the god that watches over them. Ubtao helps rebuild the city and teach the newcomers how to survive in Chult. And in return, the Feyfolk construct a temple in his honor and thank him for his guidance. Amberveil culture becomes entwined with the worship of Ubtao as an avatar of this savage land, so alike yet so different from the Feywild. Eventually, humans flock to the city of Amberveil and becomes known as Mesro Anzai in the human tongue. The Feyfolk fight and trade with Omuans, Oralungans, and Yanzaruans. Ubtao appoints guardians of Chult, titling them Barai, and they live in Mesro Anzai. Ubtao uses his godly powers to create a ring for each Bara that imbues him or her with power, though not all of these rings are created equal. Amberveil would again prosper for a time, but it would not last. Ubtao grows angry with the petty nature of mortals, grows tired of settling their disputes, and abandons the continent altogether. The city of Omu gets stronger and stronger and develops a penchant for slaves and blood sacrifice, reminding the members of the Thistlecog why they left their homeland. One of the Barai, a man named Nisi, abuses his gift to raise the dead into a terrifying army. While Amberveil's forces are spread thin in all this turmoil, the Dark Gnomes surface from hiding once again to bring one final vengeance upon the rebel king and queen. They make a suicidal attack against the pair just so they can get close enough to touch them. The curse must have taken them years to concoct. Vicwern, as the ring-bearer, is targeted with the worst fate. His body painfully melts away into blood over the course of a few weeks. The ring absorbs this blood and takes on a red and black tinge. Rokira slowly begins to lose herself. She feels as if her soul is rotting. Whether this is from the pain of losing her beloved or the curse laid upon her, she doesn't know. Black ichor begins to leak from her eyes and mouth. The only thing that keeps her going is her love for her 2 daughters, her people, and the city she fought so hard for. She is bedridden by the affliction, and one of her old comrades comes to visit her, an Eladrin friend named Arlu. She feels a powerful need to embrace this old friend and leans up out of bed to give the woman a hug, but the hug turns to a crushing embrace as her desperate feeling of love intensifies. She feels her friend wither in her arms as she absorbs a shadowy essence from the woman. The body slips out of her weakened arms, and she stares through the inky black in her eyes at her own trembling hands, struggling to comprehend what happened. Gnomish researchers studying her condition tell her that the curse within seeks to destroy everything she cherishes, that love itself has become a weapon in the hands of the curse. When she dies, the curse will only become stronger until she's a threat to the entire city. As the days pass, she feels it growing inside her like a cancer, wanting to destroy all around her. She calls the council together and gives 2 final commands. The city of Amberveil is to be sealed away in the ring as her husband intended, to protect it from all further threats, such as the war outside and eventually herself. The city will remain sealed away until all threats have passed. Second, Rokira herself is to be entombed so she could do no further harm. Of course the council protests, but she explains that she doesn't have much time. She can barely control the impulses that threaten to consume her. With heavy hearts, the preparations are made. A tomb is constructed below the city, and Zypelidae is relocated to it at her request so that she and the Clockwork Maidens can oversee Rokira's final rest. Those that want to remain in the city say goodbye, while those that want to explore the world pack their things. Rokira has a teary goodbye with her 2 daughters. One daughter pledges to remain in Amberveil and wait until the time is right for the city to rejoin the world. The other feels as if she's losing everything and leaves with the others to find a new life away from all of this. Those that perform the sealing ritual would have to remain behind outside of the city. The druids that had sacrificed part of their life essence shifting Amberveil to this jungle felt drawn to the task. The act had weakened their connection to the seasons of the Feywild, and they feel as if the Feywild itself has already rejected them. So starting a new life in this new world doesn't seem like such a harrowing task. With one final, powerful ritual, the Amber Stone and the surrounding city of Amberveil implode to the single point into Vicwern's ring. All that remains is a squad of Eladrin druids and a single formation of those extra-powerful automatons with the singular purpose of protecting the ring. These last few of the Thistlecog Circle help Rokira to the tomb that has been prepared and lock the door behind her with powerful warding magics. Clockwork Maidens escort her like a royal guard and help her attend to her final task. Rokira hands her powerful Sunblade to one of the maidens. Zypelidae says her goodbyes in unison through the 4 maidens present, and promises once again to wait and watch. The Dryad intelligence believes firmly that there will come a day when all of this can be made right. Rokira thanks her for all that she's done, and then climbs into her coffin. The clockwork maiden with the sunblade holds it resolutely over Rokira's chest, and the cursed woman nods. Zypelide seals her resolve, and she plunges the blade into the rebel queen's chest, using its magic to pin the cursed Eladrin to the coffin while the maidens close the lid and complete the seal. Pain is a constant thing for Rokira now, so she only feels relief as the darkness envelops her. She can no longer do harm and no longer has to fight for control. She lets the last bit of herself slip away as the curse assumes full control of her soul. This thing that has become the Shadow Mother still hungers for those she loves. It begins scratching away at the inside of the coffin with its aura. For years and years, maybe a century, it digs its tendril into any imperfection in the magic until it makes the tiniest crack. Black threads of malice streak through the ether to find Rokira's loved ones and then propagate itself through their love to others. Friends, lovers, adopted children, it doesn't matter. They all start to fall ill and don't know why. The stronger the love they feel, the more harshly they are affected. This leads to most of the Amberveil survivors wandering the material plane, becoming sluggish and listless. They never live up to their potentials as their love and passion are robbed from them. The Shadow Mother continues to scratch at her prison and feed on these distant essences, growing stronger and able to draw more and more vitality. But one day she hears the familiar sound of teleportation magic as someone enters her secret chamber in this clockwork tomb. Dwarves speak around her, saying, "The master has detected this little collectible and wants it placed in the tomb. Let's bring it to containment and see what it does." They hoist her coffin off the ground, and she feels that displacement, like a long-forgotten memory of the time Amberveil left the Feywild. They bring her to a new chamber and thread magic through her like the immoral monsters of the Thorn and Vine, making her into a set piece for the game of a powerful lich. But this does not stop her hunger. She continues to reach out through the cracks in this ancient tomb to feed on those she still loves, while she scratches and scratches and scratches. Her memories extend even through the battle with Shackles and his companions. The curse drinks from the black thread that binds the Kinku, but some small part of the repressed Rokira awakes as the team weakens the Shadow Mother's grip on her soul. She can see into him much as he sees into her now. Shackles can hear Rokira whisper as her unwilling body grips him. "I can see your true face. You may not be of my blood, but you are a son of my family." Several grueling seconds later, she's watching him ready his giant ring blade for a final powerful blow. Relief washes over her tortured soul as she says resolutely within herself, "Finish it." And as the ring blade sunders her and she's tossed against the wall, she looks up at the stone mural of her beloved, and her last thought echoes through Shackle's mind. "Vicwern, I'll see you again." And once Shackles returns to himself, he realized that this thing's daughter looks like his adoptive grandmother when she was very young. It was using the love that his mother held for him and his sister like a siphon to take will and essence from them. But now the black thread is severed, and a sense of vitality he did not know that he had lost returns to him.